Welcome to Wired for Wonder, where we speak to the architects of the future of work, leaders using AI to dismantle the old grind and rebuild around what actually drives results. I'm Lori Kirkland, and today I've got someone who is doing the hard, unglamorous work that most organizations are still avoiding, actually building an AI mindset inside a living, breathing organization, one person at a time. Jenna Eichberg is the Chief People Officer at AlertMedia, a mission driven SaaS company focused on employee safety and well being. With 15 years of HR leadership um, across PE backed private and public companies, she's led global teams across the US, Europe, and Latin America, navigated multiple acquisitions, and built AI enabled workforces from the ground up. She holds a master's from Cornell's Industrial and Labor Relations program, and she brings the same rigor to one of the thorniest problems leaders face right now. Because here's what Jenna understands that many executives don't: you can't mandate an AI culture into existence, you have to build it through psychological safety, bite sized learning, and the willingness to let people experiment without the fear of getting it wrong. In an era where AI skills are evolving faster than any training program can keep up with, she's asking the right question. How do you create a rhythm of leadership that keeps people curious instead of burned out? Welcome to the show, Jenna.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. Really excited for this conversation today.
Well, good. Well, as we're kind of getting the conversation going, I think it would be awesome for you to just share with the audience, what are you most passionate about? Like, what are you seeing is some of the juiciest problems that you're focused on as you are, trying to do your job, trying to adjust to all the changes in the world, trying to keep up with AI? What is really kind of piquing your interest right now?
What's excited about is I feel like I am learning and growing in a different way as a senior leader than I've grown in a really long time. I'm having to challenge myself and think differently about what are my skills to be successful in the future. Because if I can't role model it, how can I expect others to learn and grow and be vulnerable and experiment? And so I think it's really exciting to think about as a leader, what does the future of work look like for me? What are the skills and capabilities that I need to build to role model this for my workforce? And how do I share along the way and embrace the environment of we're all going to learn together? It doesn't matter what role or stage you're at of your career. We're all starting in this fresh, new era. What does the future of work look like? Let's build it together. And that's really exciting for me, both individually as I think about my own learning journey, but also as I think about the future of work and how do we inspire the next generation of the workforce to think differently about what is the workplace and what does their work look like and what are the opportunities it presents. And just also acknowledging that there's challenges that come with that too. And organizations that will thrive in this are the ones that create the culture and the mindset and the learning journeys that bring people along with the organization, with their peers, with their teams, and meet them where they're at.
That's so powerful. And I think you are hitting on something that most leaders are recognizing today, which is that you are part of the transformation. All of us have all of the experience we have, like, right, that is going to help propel us into what we should build a future of work. But nobody has all the answers. So it does require each and every one of us to also go through transformation. What's something that, as you've been tackling change, that you have been surprised with, or maybe remembered about yourself that, uh, you know, that actually helps you with the change? Like something that maybe you reconnected to that you hadn't, remembered or used in work in a while?
Yeah. I think this piece around iteration experimentation and that I'm thinking about, I've been trying to build skills in Claude to really think about how do I build scalable solutions that I can utilize but then share with my team. And in doing that, it's not perfect, right? You have to keep going. And there's this inner curiosity that I'm finding of okay, well, what about this? What about that? Asking myself questions, but also building resilience and remembering that it's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. You need to keep trying and knowing that the human element here is actually super crucial. It's so easy to fall into technology is going to solve it or that's its job. And for me, it's actually been about like, no, my brain is what's most important right now. Like,
Yes.
even elements is what's really important right now. And if anything, I think it's actually pressuring me and challenging me to think differently, not about the technology and what the system's going to do, but what is the knowledge and capability that I need to actually make it effective.
I love that, and that feels good for you to, like, re-tap into, like, "Oh, wait a minute," like, for so long, it's kind of been humans are just transactional, and that's because of the industrial hierarchy, right? The way we've been working, right, with very big standardization that got humans really far, got us to this point, but all of a sudden doesn't hold up in a fast changing world. But there's a lot of play when you adopt the curious mindset, right? But that does recreate, at least for me and many of the people I work with, right? It's creating this like this how do you integrate the past that was you want to know everything, you want to be perfect, you don't want to fail with actually you don't know the answers because we don't really know what the right questions are yet. So what was the answer today is not going to be the answer for tomorrow. We almost have to lean on that human element. I mean, so much more than we've ever had to, at least in my lifetime. But that brings the question that I imagine brings to mind a question that I imagine you have to experience a lot, which is okay, when you're confronted with what I know isn't enough anymore, there's like some existential questions for people that bring up fear, that bring up resistance. How are you guys at Alert Media? How are you guys like trying to tackle that real sense of fear that there's nobody I've seen yet that doesn't have it? But like, how are you guys kind of grabbing onto that and making it part of what you have to acknowledge to build a workforce of the future.
I think there's a couple of things. I think it's let's not reinvent the wheel. As an organization, we have invested so much in learning and development and recognizing that everyone's journey is different and we need to meet people where they're at. How do we create diverse pathways and experiences that allow people to learn in this iterative way? How do you create a psychologically safe culture, which is foundational to who we are, right? Our mission is to help keep people safe and helping organizations keep their people safe. My job is to help keep my workforce safe. And that safety goes beyond the physical dimensions of safety. It goes really into this aspect of like that psychological safety of it's okay not to know. We are going to enable you through this journey to get the right experiences and exposure to different ways of learning and thinking. And when you get it wrong, we're going to reflect on it. We're going to learn from it, and we're going to give you more skills to enable you to be more effective the next time you do it.
Do you
And
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
sorry. I
No,
was
no,
just gonna
please.
ask for an example of that. I was gonna be like, "Oh, do you have any, like, juicy stories where you're like, somebody had, real fear or real resistance or whatever they might have, kind of that energy blocker coming up that you were able to help or teams that you were able to help kind of pull through that by using that psychological safety within in experimentation?"
Yeah, I mean, I think my own people team is a really great reflection of that journey. Like, I've been so inspired by my team and just seeing each of them have very different learning journeys as we've embraced AI in our organization. And the way in which everyone has been willing to fail in front of each other, right? Like one of my colleagues is leading a ton of the enablement programs and experimental learning workshops, for example, to build a custom GPT. And I think part of this is that experimentation means it's not always going to be right. Even if you tried it by yourself, when you go into a room and you're training people how to do something, it doesn't mean that it's gonna work exactly how you just trialed it. Like, it's technology. It's not consistent all the time, even though you expect it to be. And what I really loved is, our L&D manager really leaned into it, and he kept going live with his peers and his colleagues to experiment and find other ways of solving it, and being okay that I don't need to be perfect in front of a room of people that I'm trying to learn. And for me, like, I had such deep respect for him because I think most people have been like, that was really scary. That was really bad. And when him and I retroed it, it was like, it takes a lot of courage, but you also created this safety that you're the expert and you're training on something that doesn't get right every time. And like you visibly showed that resilience in that session in front of others, but you also experimented. You tried different things. You did a like an outreach to the crowd to say, what other things should we try? And part of this is it's not an individual game. It is a team game,
It is a
right? And
collective. No one has the answers. If
right.
they
And
say
it's
they do, then they're further behind than they think.
yeah. And so I think part of this is getting thoughts and ideas from each other on the fly. Or if something's worked for somebody, saying, hey, walk me through what you did and how you did it. And what did you learn from that? What didn't work first? Because I'll tell you, there's moments where I hear my peers talking about things that they're doing with AI. And I find it daunting of like, oh my God, I'm so behind. And then I have to check myself and say, no, I'm where I am and this is what I'm going to do next. And then it's, my CFO I was like, can you show me what you did here? Like help me understand. And then I went back to my office and I did a different example of it using that learning. And I'm like, no, it is possible. But it's the reality is we're human. And whenever you're learning something new that is constantly changing and uncertain, like it's scary and that's okay. And part of it is we as leaders need to create the spaces to actually celebrate those moments of learning and saying it's okay when it doesn't go right. And then saying, what are we going to take forward and do differently the next time? No different than any other learning we've ever done, whether it's a new technology, a new system, a new process. This is no different, right? Like, think back when they introduced the computer. People were probably so scared of, oh, but I write everything. You're now going to have to go learn how to type it. It's going to change how you work, right? The introduction of cloud. We've talked about so many examples of technology innovation that has changed the way we work. And we've all made it through. The generations before us made it through. We work differently today because the generations before us moved through. Now it's about how do we demonstrate the same level of resilience? How do we embrace new and different learning and experimentation in the workplace that allows people to grow and develop into this new way of working?
Oh my god, you're, like, tapping on so much stuff that I think I nerd out on, which is kind of like the philosophical human side. Humans, right? Every generation, every lifetime is faced with a different set of contexts of circumstances, right? And so, what I think that when you were talking, all I kept hearing is, right, it's a lot of like basic life questions, basic humanity questions, like, hey, your journey's gonna move on as it's intended to, right? There's a line from the Grateful Dead, let your life proceed by its own design, right? Like let it come up as it is. And everybody's at a different place because there's so much to learn and no one has answers. But you also then talked about something that's deeply human, which is the fact that being vulnerable and sharing your learning in front of people is becoming a key skill for leaders in today's fast-paced change, just like your L&D leader demonstrated, where people actually, as humans, much beyond what we say, right? We're in a very um, logical society right now where we think what we say and what's on the PowerPoint is actually what's being communicated. But 95% of our communication is actually through our bodies. And so when somebody else is when your team is watching somebody struggle on a non-perfect way, they are getting the signals that like, hey, this guy is one being brave and still going through it. But then two, that wait a minute, this is what safety looks like when it is okay for me to try and fail. And like that actually brings a calm to the people around you, right? It's
Mhm.
so much better than the polished. It's so much more human because that's how humans learn, right? We learn through storytelling, we learn through watching and observing. I mean, it is a little bit on the philosophical side, but I think it's also probably some of the most fun things that are happening right now as we're rediscovering our own humanity after years of trying to make humans machines.
Yeah. And people don't know where to start. I think that's like the key of the fear is like, if I don't know where to start, then it feels so daunting that you just don't do anything. And so, how do you also like break down the barrier to entry of saying, here are the 1 to 2 things you can try first?
Yeah.
Um, And like introducing like things that people can do on their own instead of like in the public space. Like I this is a silly example, but um I have a new au pair who's joined our family, and I decided to use Claude to build my like life handbook for her to help her have all the resources and tools at her fingertips. But it's just this massive amount of information that usually would have taken me like hours to put together. And in 20 minutes, I was able to build this like beautiful, organized like guide for her. And
Did you just ask Claude to ask you questions so you could build this? Or yeah, isn't that amazing? You're like, "Wait a
it's
minute, I can solve any of my problems." That's great. So g I'm sorry, go ahead and continue. I just thought it was good to talk about how you did it.
yeah, like, I mean, saying, "I want to achieve X," using the actual AI to guide you on what to do. Like, "I don't know how to start with you. Tell me where to start."
Yeah.
Right? It's as simple as that.
Well, in
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's like a humanness around the solving the pain point for you. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like something that
Yeah.
your brain is so much more willing to confront change if it sees something of value to you, which in your example, I think your brain was like, I don't really want to sit down and have to think about everything. That sounds very laborious. Like, let me ask this tool that can span, can go through and look at so much data to actually ask me questions that will generate the answers I need.
And how many times have we jotted down notes in our phones of, like, this list of things that, like, how great would it be if all of a sudden that list could become this organized, document for us to actually live our life? It
Yeah.
now became my reality, right? My
Yeah.
list of random notes that I was typing between everything else going on in my life. And so I think that's the other piece here is this isn't just about the workplace. It's a
Mhm.
new way of living, just
Yeah.
like all the different technologies and systems that have changed how we live, how we work. I mean, the car, right? When did I ever think in my life I was going to get in a Waymo with no human and get from one place to another? What in my life that I thought that I would get in, I mean, on a airplane, right? And see how much that technology has evolved since like I was in college working for Boeing to today, getting on an airplane and being like, wow, like it's a different experience. It's no different here.
It's amazing, and I actually love that you point that out because that's such an important thing. It's almost like we get to finally have the excuse. AI is finally our excuse to like fix so many of the really cumbersome parts of our lives that we built for ourselves, right? Like everybody along the way had the best intentions, right? But society is where it is today. But if we're architecting what our lives are going to look like, that also means who we are as human beings. So this is like rapidly breaking down the business and professional kind of silos that we've somehow gotten to in the world. And it's like, no, you're actually learning when you are solving if it helps you to use AI to learn and solve problems in your personal life, you still are getting that experience. So it doesn't matter. So it's like this beautiful excuse to like just lean into like, what do you want to fix in your life? What do you wish was different? What are you dreaming about that you haven't thought about in 15 years, but feel like the world could be a better place with it, right? Like it's I don't know, possibilities. Is that maybe what I'm
Yeah,
seeing? Like
it
it's
is.
creating a whole lot of it's just creating a whole lot.
For sure. That trip that you would never go on because you're too scared to go plan it because you don't have enough information to go plan it. It would take you hours to do research. Guess what? You just found someone who could plan your entire trip of everything you've ever dreamed of, and it's at your fingertips within
Yeah.
seconds, right?
And for the
It
price
could
you want. It'll do the
yeah,
work.
with whatever price right, with the price that you want and how you want it to be and the experiences you wanna have, right? It's seeing the possibilities and exploring those possibilities, and and I think that taking the stakes off of actually doing it in your personal life when you're learning a new skill has always been really valuable. And this
Mhm.
is one of those places where I think it's going to be even more valuable for the workforce because it'll feel less daunting when they're doing it at work because they're doing it in their everyday life and seeing the value it's having in it.
Yeah.
The reality is that some of us who've been getting really deep and using a lot of these AI tools have also talked about it can also be exhausting.
Yeah.
because it's faster. You're getting things done faster. You're seeing more possibilities than you've ever seen. And you're so excited that it can actually be exhausting to think about, am I always going to feel behind because it's such a rapid pace, because those possibilities are so endless. And one of the things one of my colleagues and I were talking about was like, is there a mental health element here that, like, we're also going to have to check ourselves on?
Yeah.
As you introduce of, like, it's the same idea of, like, the perfectionist who always needs to get an A plus, and you need to, like, coach them and say, "It's okay for certain things to be Bs." Be really intentional about what needs to be a B, what needs to be an A. Kind of same thing here is I could go do all these things, but what am I intentionally going to do today? And
Well,
being okay with that.
and what's gonna bring me the most value? And I love that you brought this up because we are seeing with clients. So we have a product called Universal Context where we connect in all of within your secure environment, you connect in all of your applications together to build an intelligence layer. And now with that, what has coming up is like, wait a minute, people have more time to do things, and there's almost like a breaking up with in the world of like, wait a minute, I'm an individual with agency, and if I have more time, I can actually decide that a walk is going to help me be more strategic. And we have a client that was telling us recently that they've been doing much more their individual one-on-ones with walks because they're realizing that when they get bigger outcome based focused, that the activity that we've kind of built into your value is how much activity you do day to day. Well, that's actually not the measurement anymore because you can go on, like you said, forever. So you got to check yourself and be like, wait a minute, how am I getting back realigned with what's actually the value and important? And the beautiful thing that comes out of it is you actually can get away from the screens, which I'm in technology, but I actually see that's where I feel like that's where we're gonna go is we're gonna become more like, wait a minute, we need to have more conversations, in person, or we need to go and, we need to connect back out with nature, whatever your individual thing is. But it is around like giving yourself time to actually get more centered on what you're trying to build because it's not about just getting more information because you now have so much access to information. Does that resonate with you? Or do you see that
Totally.
in
Yeah,
your workplace?
the creating spaces to reset so that as you're doing your work, you're able to actually bring your best ideas and thoughts because I mean, AI is eliminating the tactical things that you didn't need to touch that actually were mindless. And when that
Totally.
space is not taken by the mindless, it means your workspace is really taken by like really hard, tough, strategic things, which means you might actually need more space to reset more often. It's funny you talk about the walking. So I started doing walking meetings with some of my one-on-ones, and I got a walking pad in my office. And I've been talking about with my colleagues about like the learnings I'm having about having a walking pad in my office because we're immobile most of the days, especially those of us who are sitting in offices. And what I find is when I move, even if it's only for 5 minutes, it can really be this game changer for us in um like it's the same idea of like when you move spaces, like having a new set of space allows you to have new innovation and creative ideas. But when you move, it's like you feel it in your whole body to actually allow your brain to refocus and reconnect when you restart your work.
Well, you're using different pathways, and it's really funny because from a biological standpoint, your body has so many sensors and so much intelligence that it only gets activated when you're moving, right? That's why people have always been told to exercise. It's because like that's actually how you process all of that information is through movement. So it is actually more strategic to, it's why like if you're gardening or you're in the shower and you clear yourself from just mindless activity, you actually activate your default mode network, which is your strategy, your bigger holistic thinking brain. And that same thing happens with movement. Just moving, you might not even realize that you have an irritation from 5 meetings ago that's still sitting in you, but when you move, all of a sudden it comes up like, "Whoa," and then it just passes through you. But if you don't actually move, then it's still there as this, like, subconscious blocker. So I love your thinking around that. Now, give me some context, because I think you're ahead of a lot of leaders, and I think you're, purposefully thinking about the future of work. If you were gonna give advice to people, other leaders who are listening around, thinking about your own personal rhythm of leadership, your own way of being and way of, best supporting your team, what types of things have you seen that feel like they're a little bit new and fresh compared to where you might have been you might have thought 3 years ago?
Yeah. I think part of it is obviously we've talked a lot about like your own individual learning and experimentation. But the other is I've loved, some of our leaders have brought their actual examples and done demos for their team real time. So, like taking the everyday work and showing what's possible and showing your journey and actually being more transparent about that learning journey that you're having as a leader, that vulnerability we were talking about, I think is so crucial and showing you can do that. Because I think if they see you do it, they feel like they should be doing it too, and they're comfortable doing it. I think the other piece would be is I am dedicating more time to actually like taking some of the online learning courses and actually drawing out frameworks and different insights that I think translate into everyday work and bringing it into everyday conversations with my teams to explore, but also getting their perspectives and hearing them. Like if someone's saying, I don't agree with that, okay, tell me why you don't agree with that. Tell me what we can be doing differently. Going back to the everyday dialogue and creating the spaces to actually discuss and bring some of these different ideas and concepts to your team meetings and discussions. Like one thing I loved is that we started our HR business partner meeting today, and our director of HR shared something that she trialed last night and how it worked and what she did. And then everyone started sharing other examples of what they would do around that. And what I loved is like everyone felt like it was just like everyday collaboration again. And so what I'd share with leaders is where are you investing in yourself? Where are you creating spaces to share your learning and growth alongside your teams? And where are you creating intentional dialogue within your team discussions to not just celebrate the wins, but celebrate the learnings and swing and misses? That's what I always talk about. I'm like, hey, let's talk about the swing and misses because they're just as important. And it's not to like shame someone doing something wrong. It's actually to celebrate the learning journey and being really human and authentic of it doesn't all work.
I think that's so wonderful, because I think that that taps into something that is almost more societal too, which is about, building bridges, right? We have a world that has a lot of, polarities or a lot of this is right, this is wrong, and a whole lot of judgmentalness that feels like we're being toddlers in ways. And when you're what you were just describing really does offer a way to start bringing in, just get back to that human dialogue, just get back to right, like how do we see what other people are thinking so that you can learn by learning how their point of view actually how they think about something, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, I do that too, or "Oh, I do that differently," and it almost empowers each person individually. I love that. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show today. I think that you guys are doing some amazing stuff. I think that, where the future is going is unknown, but man, we get to choose and decide how we architect and build it. And I think you have some really strong uh a really strong point of view of like, hey, let's do it good. Let's include the human element, which I love. If our listeners wanted to reach out to you or ask you more questions, where would be a good place for them to go to? Where can they find
I,
you?
wel- I welcome the dialogue and sharing. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. I'm always looking to connect and learn from others across the community. And if I can be a resource for you, I'd love to be.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Jenna, and thank you everyone for listening.